takes us into segment 3, which is Rod Stewart, Every Picture Tells a Story. Before we start the clock, Matt, can you tell us where this album checks in?
I'll tell you this story. This is 237 in the 1970s, 32 in 1971, 1069 of all time. It is Rod Stewart's highest ranked album in Best Ever Albums, and in Rolling Stone, it's number 177 on their list. So pretty high up there, actually, for the top 500. Pretty high in Rolling Stone's list.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, do I start this one, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so I'm going to start the clock and we go. All right, guys, I hated this album a lot, a whole lot. Sorry, I didn't design this to be about, but yeah, oh my goodness, the songs were so long. It was like the opposite of the Bill. I listened to this after the Bill Withers album, and like, so let me start by saying this. Maggie May is a classic, and I don't dislike Maggie May, but it's the best song of the same song that he does every song on this album. And it's just, the songs are 5-6 minutes. They all overstay their welcome. After a while, Rod Stewart's voice, which is very distinctive, it just is always the same. You know, it's that like, he's very hard to imitate, right? It's that like, you know, Maggie, I'm sure to go, you know, and it's like after a while, you know, it's that like raspy, it just wore on me after a while. The songs, they just didn't speak to me at all. It's kind of like about him being young and he's in relationships and, you know, figuring stuff out, but not like there were like turns of play lyrically too that I just thought were like very forced and sort of schlocky. You know, Maggie May is fine. I even think the beginning of that song is kind of, you know, overindulgent. There's like a trip into Amazing Grace on this album out of nowhere.
Oh God, I wrote that down.
Did not need to happen. Like some of the songs, it feels like they're done, and then I don't know, man. Like there was even the instrumentation kind of wore on me after a while, like the pianos and stuff. I'll be honest, guys. I mean, it was interesting too because I know of Rod Stewart as an entity, and like, but going into this, you know, I knew Maggie May, I knew Do You Think I'm Sexy, I knew that Downbound Train cover of the Tom Waits song that seemed like it was on MTV every 5 seconds when I was like 9 years old. When I was
you tonight.
Exactly. Downtown Train. Yeah, exactly. And he's like, and you know, I obviously know that. I mean, the man got more ass than a bus seat. You know what I mean? Like that's another part of him that he's, you know, he's an interesting guy. And I have listened to lots of the Faces because my dad liked the Faces and tried to get. And even then, it was not an easy sell for me. But I went in open eyes on this one, and it just was like. After this, all I could think of is if this is Rod Stewart's best album, then he's got nothing for me because this did zilch for me, to be quite honest. Anyway, I'll turn it over to Josh. Your thoughts?
Oh man, this album was I'm lukewarm on this album at best. It is very schizophrenic. I feel like I have no idea who Rod Stewart is as an artist. He tries to throw everything in the kitchen sink in this album, and not only different styles of music, you've got British folk on here, country, blue-eyed soul, I guess, blues. I think there's some gospel, a little bit of funk, and then sometimes it's like all of that in the same song. I feel
he's just like appropriating like every type of black music, but poorly, in my opinion. So
also, I felt this like every song. I thought the song was over, and then it would keep going. And like almost like to the point where there's like a pause in between, and it's like, all right, next prog rock number in the same song. Like and then like a perfect example of that is the Amazing Grace that's tacked on to the end of That's All Right. I have no idea why that's there, what the point of that is, why was he doing that? And he does that a couple of times, at least 2 or 3 times in these songs. Mandolin Wind is the same way, I noted. It just keeps going for some reason. And as a result, I didn't find I thought Maggie May is good. I was hearing different things this time I listened to it, maybe because I was on the headphones. I'm not sure if there's different versions of the song, maybe but I was hearing a lot more instrumentation this time around. Maybe it was remastered or something, but I thought that was interesting. But other than that, it's really, I did not get much more out of this album. There wasn't, I'm trying to think of strengths of the album. He's got a good voice, but maybe not for these songs. Maybe later on in the 90s when he's singing duets with Sting or whoever else it was.
I just think of him covering lots of really good songs as Rod Stewart is what I always think of, like his 80s career in particular. You know what I mean? Like, he'd do like This Old Heart of Mine or something, and it's like, it just reminds me how much I like the original more, you know, was sort of the take there. I'm going to turn it over to Matt in a second, but can I give a special shout out to Mandolin Wind as like a particularly bloated song? That song was just... Oh, it was like Tam Lin by Fairport Convention, but less good in every way, I think. So, oof. All right, Matt, go ahead. I don't want to, suck up the air on this.
I've never cared for Rod Stewart much at all. This record didn't really change that opinion at all. I think I agree with a lot of things that you guys are saying. For me, it seemed like there were two main thoughts that came out, because what I heard part of it too, I heard like Led Zeppelin 3 type Led Zeppelin guitar parts in the mandolin. It seemed like that he's going for that a little bit. And to me, I'm thinking this is third-rate Rolling Stones. This is third-rate Led Zeppelin 3 Led Zeppelin. And there's some parts where it's like, okay, like I like the first half better. I like the first, side of this better. Every Picture Tells a Story. It's a longer song, but there were some parts of that I'm like, okay, it's, it's blues rock. It's fine. It's good. I did like a lot. The song I probably liked the most, and I just looked it up. It's actually not, it's a Dylan song. It's Tomorrow is a Long Time is a Dylan song. And I thought that was kind of a good song.
It's also the shortest song on the album.
It's also the shortest song on the album. I did not
Which is so funny in so many ways, isn't it? That the Dylan song is the shortest one on the album.
Yeah. I did not like the cover. There's like the Elvis cover, That's All Right, which actually is it's an Elvis cover, whoever did that originally. But that's the one I think that's got the Amazing Grace at the end, and that's a real long song. And that was a cover, again, unlike the Bill Withers cover of Let It Be. This is a cover that did not need to be done. It's like, you don't need to do That's All Right, and especially do it like that, And then it just gets like the second half is just I never liked Maggie May. I don't think it's that great of a song, and I'm like, and that's the thing. It's like Rod Stewart's greatest songs are just like bleh, and it's fine. But then when it just gets overplayed and everybody's like, oh, Maggie May, and it's like he's doing the unplugged thing and he's like, getting all into it. It's like, shut up, Rod Stewart. Like, it's not that. Like, and the one that really I totally forgot about was Find a Reason to Believe, which is probably a bigger song than Maggie May. And I hate that song. I never liked that song. And I was like, oh, wait. And it was interesting because it's been so long since I heard it. And when I first saw it, like, I find a reason to believe is coming up. I'm like, so I had that part in the song, still I look to find a reason to believe. And that's the part that's in my head. And then I totally forgot about the someone like you.
Yes.
And I was like, ugh. Like, I was just ready
it's
I don't
like
it.
I think of that as a Carpenters song, and it's like the cheesiest song ever. And I still like the Carpenters version of it like 5 times more than I like this one. Yeah.
And the other thing too is there are elements of this that I'm like, this is an album that with a lot of the makeup of what's happening here is an album that I should like. It's got a lot of elements that I do like. I do like the mandolin. A song like Mandolin Wind is a song that I should, and they throw the mandolin in other places. I know it's different for you guys, but that's something that I usually like. And and I'm listening to it going, I don't think he's not doing it any favors. And that's not working for me. So I don't know. Rod Stewart's always been like kind of perplexing to me because I think that there's other artists that do what he does much better.
That's a great way to put it, Matt.
And he seems to be like always at the not always, but I remember hearing a lot about him growing up and stuff. And he did do the MTV Unplugged thing. He did the thing with Bryan Adams and Sting, And then I have heard the Faces stuff. And actually, unlike John, I do like a lot of that stuff. And I think my brother made a comment once. He's like, "Man, there's fewer artists have started like doing awesome stuff and then going to complete crap like Rod Stewart, And I'm not terribly well versed in either, but the Faces stuff that I've heard, I do like, and the Rod Stewart solo stuff, it's just, I don't know. It's just, I think I would like it better if he wasn't such a big name guy. If it was just like another artist doing like, it's pretty good blues rock. Like, it's not terrible, right? But just like putting him on that level, it's just like, no, that kind of puts it away from me.
Can I give another observation here too? This album's got tons of instrumentation on it. There's pianos, there's guitars, there's mandolin, there's the Hammond organ I heard in there, right? Because I've now been able to recognize that. There's strings at different parts.
Yeah.
like it gives you greater appreciation for the wall of sound, doesn't it? Because it doesn't do anything for this album, does it? All those instrumentations, it just sounds cluttered and all stuff. Yeah.
I'm looking at the people on this. There's like 15, 20 people on this playing on this record.
It feels like there are. It's not like the wall of sound where there's a lot, but it's a concise sound. I know you guys are less of a fan of that sound than I am, but I don't mean to do I know Rod Stewart's got a ton of charisma. I know that he's got a distinctive voice. I can't say that it's a bad voice. It's a voice that's on tune and stuff. I just there's nothing about the songs he writes that resonates with me. It's like about relationships and at times trying to get laid and like thinking back on stuff, but it's in a way that is in no way interesting to me. It's like boring, and that's what my take is.
You know, the thing too is he wrote one song on this and he co-wrote one other one, and that's it. So he didn't even write these songs. He's just doing other people's songs. And
I think he's a poser. I think he has no interest in music other than being famous, and he doesn't have any sort of musical identity in the way that like the Stones or the Beatles did, right? He didn't I mean, this may be way off base, but based on what is on this record, it's not like he's in love with the blues in the way that the Rolling Stones were, or something to that effect, right? He is just picking and choosing, or somebody else is picking these numbers and he's like, sure, I'll sing it, whatever, and then that's all you get. He has no interest in formulating an identity as a singer, a single solo singer, and he is just riding on the fact that he can sing.
Well,
go ahead, maybe Matt. I don't know if I know enough Rod Stewart to go that far, but I will say that
that's my hot take.
he wrote Mandolin Wind, right? So there you go. So that that long time. And the other one he co-wrote with Ronnie Wood, who was in the Faces as well, who later played with the Stones. He wrote the first opening track. Every Picture Tells a Story was co-written with him and Ronnie Wood.
Well, I go? And I'm just gonna say something real quick. I think what also hurt this album is that the Bill Withers album was so genuine and the songs
yes.
were very clean. And then the John Prine album was just these A+ songs. And I'm going to use Maggie May, and I don't mean to keep going back to that because there's other stuff. And I can do it with Every Picture Tells a Story too, because that's one he wrote. But I always thought the lyrics to Maggie May were god awful. Like, I laughed at all of your jokes. You didn't need to coax. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? That's like D-, F+, it's like, you led me away from home just to save you from being alone. It's like, ugh. It's like you could just see somebody's like, okay, what rhymes there? There's no, you know what I mean? There's like no, there's no guile, or there's guile to it. You know what I mean? And that's where I kind of buy Josh's narrative. I think even, wasn't Rod Stewart's whole deal was that he was like a soccer player? He traveled around like Spain, and then like he's like, oh, I'm going to do music. And I like black music, so I'm just going to do lots of black music, and it's like...
It wouldn't surprise me. I just don't know it. And then he marries Rachel Hunter.
Right. Well, that's like 20 years later. But yeah. I mean, he dates everybody and every tall blonde that
he
exists.
says that like on the Unplugged thing. He's like, I wrote this song back in such and such a year. He goes, me wife was only one. I'm like, and he's like laughing about it. I'm like, dude, that's creepy. But actually, I have to clean a stack. I screwed up. He actually did co-write Maggie May as well. I didn't. I read that wrong. So
here's one from Every Picture Tells a Story that goes into that too. But remember one thing: don't lose your head to a woman that'll spend your bread. It's like, Jesus. It's like the type of lyric that if like a blues musician wrote it, you know what I mean? They do it with like a wink and a smile, you know what I mean? But his is like this very like I just feel like it's like when you're near like a drunk person in a bar, and like every one of these songs seems like the type of song that like the type of songs I hate, that are like the Piano Man and Sweet Caroline and all these long songs that are like for some people very sentimental, but for me they're just like universal like drunk people songs, and that's what I felt like all of these songs were. It's like, all right, and like I said, it didn't help Mr. Stewart that he followed those other two artists who I would not say that about at all. You know what I mean? And so perhaps I would not have been as down on this album if I hadn't followed those. Yeah.
And for me to cap it all off, this is 177 of all time in Rolling Stone. It's like, really? There's
that.
That's
well, and it's just
and that's it. It's like it's fine, but when you say it's that great, that's when I start to say, no, it actually sucks. Like it goes
it's
from
not
fine
even,
to sucks.
177.
177 of all time. Yeah.
I hated Trout Mask Replica and I hated White Light, White Heat, but like, I understand that they represent something different. Like this is just. Boy, like let's be honest. Like this is like Van Morrison did everything on this album better on Moondance, like by a factor of like 50. And that's what I was thinking about when I heard this. Is I'm like, I don't need this album because Van Morrison Moondance like did this. It's exactly what I feel like this is. And later, you get what I'm saying? That's kind of this CCR did this. Wrote kind of folksy songs that are better,
This is a cool album that your college roommate put together with some of his buddies' band that you would see like at college. It's okay, and then they faded away. This is a great album for that. You know what I mean? And then after that, it's you go back for the nostalgia of that. But for 177 of all time, I don't think so.
He needs to go back into a band as opposed to being solo.
Yeah, it just is. It's like I struggle sometimes with stuff that's considered to be masterpieces, but that are so broad and don't change the genre. And to me, if you're going to be a standard in a standard form of music, you better be real good. You know what I mean? Because if not, it's like, and that's a little bit of how I felt on this. But hey, if you're a Rod Stewart fan, and God knows tons of people are,
they are.
I'm sure we'll hear from you in the comments and stuff, and maybe you can convince me. As I said, my dad is a huge Faces fan, and I tend to think my pops is a pretty good judge of talent. It's one of the few areas where he and I will differ. And like I said, he seems like he'd be a great guy to get a beer with. But I don't need to listen to this album ever again. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Agreed.